In the second half and conclusion of my conversation with Lisa Nelson of Sea and Colors, Lisa and I discussed that people make projects and many people are visual. There's no need to get fancy. Using lo-fi tools like index cards, sticky notes, and a flip chart can help make an impact. Take a listen. That
And I think
is
the third
fantastic.
very simple thing that I started doing more and more is visualizing the timeline.
Mm,
Because people, and that includes me, I'm people, you're people, people have a hard time understanding time. It seems like, oh, we should be able to do this by then. And it's not true. By the time you incorporate the weekends, the holiday,
mhm.
the staff all hands meeting that everybody has to go to, that's going to be 3 hours, this and this, that, and that. The timeline is really not the same as calendar days, you
Yeah.
know. So some project management skill, making sure everyone understands that timeline and showing it periodically, right?
I
So if
love it.
as simple as, okay, we got this 4-month project or whatever, and this is where we are right now in June, and you're expecting what by when? Just kind of
Right.
seeing it. And the time, it might be a week, it might be 5 years, whatever it is, lay it visually out, and it makes a big difference.
So I just had my monthly mentors address this past Monday, and I talked about challenging the group to do their own personal WBS.
Oh,
And it's something about visually, because it's one thing writing it out, right? But when you can visually, so even from this is one of the things of all the things we had to learn, the techniques, I find the WBS to be one of the most valuable. And just,
yeah.
what you showed with that timeline, that's another way that you can think about your goals. Like, what are we going to focus on for ourselves, whether it's professionally, personally, for the next, 3 months? Like, I'm giving you June, that marks the end of the first half of the year.
Yeah.
I'm giving you June to kind of think through it, and then we're gonna, like, July through September, like, what are your goals, what are things that you have to get through, and visually displaying it means a whole lot. I have a whiteboard. I mean, I think that's why I still to this day love whiteboards. Like,
Yes.
the tools are
Uh-huh.
fancy, they're great, and it allows you to access it anywhere, but there's something to be said when you have it like on a whiteboard, on a flip chart. You drew it, you actually had to put your hand to it. And I think, that has an impact as well to our projects, is that visually displaying what we do. And I think that's why Agile has so much potential, because it really is about visuals. It's
Yes.
about the sticky notes and the whiteboard. It's about
Right.
the information radiators and showing charts and showing where we are. That
The
gives people,
Kanban,
yes,
moving things around.
yes, it's getting
Mhm.
that sense of accomplishment. So, do you have like a fancy Kanban, that graphic that you draw, that's from the
You know,
standard to do, doing, and done?
no, I still use the typical columns,
Mhm.
but of course my done has a big smiley face.
Oh, that's right. And you know
Um,
what? I have to see if I can find it. You inspired me, because I created mine with like four, and my headings like you did. I have a smiley face for the done column.
yep.
I've got a car, because I learned how to draw a car from
Yes, that's
you,
right.
for doing.
Yes,
So I come in and I put like little,
that's
underneath the
beautiful.
tires, so it indicates that it's moving. And I have a Q, so that's my extra column. I have a queued up, so I have like a question mark.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um,
That's perfect.
so, but it does, it adds a lot more meaning to accomplishing my task. So I think that's
Exactly.
super, super cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ah, boy, you are giving me some exciting stuff. So what are some of the ways that, like, you already showed us some basic things that people can do. And I think people, when they saw what you did with the timeline and with showing the triple constraint, it's such a great reminder
Mhm.
for us that, it's something you can have at the start of every project and
Yep.
fill in the blanks, so that people are engaged and motivated? Are there other kind of basic shapes and resources that you think we should bring into the conversations when we have team meetings or a meeting with the client?
I think you can't forget the people, right?
Mm.
So,
Oh,
back to
that
what you
stick
were saying
figure.
with that stick person, because what happens, oh my goodness,
I'm
the
practicing that
classic,
right now.
the classic was, for our IT projects, and this, I'm sure it applies beyond IT, but this was what would typically happen. We would have a large rollout, and then we would have to go through the change control process
Mhm.
and the PMO process. So at the very end, the project manager, like myself, would explain what this change is, the software upgrade of this, that, and that, uh, present that change and see if anyone had any questions. Now, the people who were invited may not have been who we thought about. So that's all with the stakeholder management, right? So
Mhm.
what would always happen, and it wouldn't happen with my projects, but I would witness this often. There would be a group who would say, wait a minute, you're going to do that change on June 30th? That's not going to work, you know. And it might have been the electric or facilities people. Maybe the facilities people were going to shut down the air conditioning because, they're changing something, la la la.
Mhm.
And they didn't know that there was a big CIO, whatever happening. Maybe there's a data recovery exercise happening. And what do you mean there's not going to be any electricity in the building? You know? So it was that one final chance, that change control to make sure, is everybody good?
Mhm.
And yeah, it would always be somebody who would have to roll back because they didn't coordinate with everyone that they should have. And this can happen whether it's, like I said, IT, air conditioning. Imagine a hospital and they're going to do something with the air, and there's, some other activity that's life changing happening.
Mhm.
So stakeholder management is key. And just as simple as drawing a smiley face on a sheet of paper or on the whiteboard and writing the word stakeholders and
Mhm.
saying who should be involved,
Mhm.
who just needs to be informed, who needs to approve, who's going to get this, who's going to receive this after we're done, who's going to, just asking those questions. And then that helps people brainstorm. Oh, well, what about procurement? What about, data security and this, that, and that? I think it's a great way to get the mind going, make sure you have all your stakeholders. And you should do that not only at the beginning of the project, but at different points in the project, because sometimes
Absolutely.
things change. The scope changes. Okay, well, do we still have the right stakeholders? Do we
Mhm.
have people on the project who are no longer really involved because now the scope changed? Do we have the new people who we didn't think about? So yeah, stakeholder management to make sure you have the right people at your
I
meetings,
love
or
it.
if they're not at the meeting, are they being informed? Are you giving them an email or giving them a heads up so you don't get the shock of your life when it's time to go live?
And I think you really hit the nail on the head. So when you talked about how we have these, I mean, people make the project. So that's just the
Yep.
reality.
Hmm.
And they come with these heroic ideas of when we'll finish. And then they just, we just bulldoze, right? And then it's to your point about we forgot to talk to the facilities person, we forgot to
Yes.
talk to the IT, we didn't talk to this group of people, which sets you back.
Right.
And we can't overlook that. We always, I think sometimes we naively think, well, this came from the, undersecretary or this CEO or whoever, and so we're just going to do it. But it's the politics, the office politics that we have to deal with. It's personalities, and even the person who wanted it, they might change their mind. You're like, wait, you want us
Yes,
to do something different? So um,
absolutely.
you always
And
have to be mindful of that. Yeah.
and being able to draw that simple picture to make sure everyone is on the same page.
Mhm.
Just like you shared, the technology is great. What I've been sharing with you are, what we call lo-fi,
Mhm.
analog lo-fi techniques, marker, index card, pen, right? And of course, I can use my iPad, I can use Mural, I could use um, Google Jamboard, Miro. We use all those kinds of tools for different types of meetings and collaborations.
Mhm.
But I think the key fundamental thing, just like your ABCs, if you can draw with a pen, a simple image on a sheet of paper, it will take you a long way. A lot of times you don't have the time
Mhm.
to bring up this software. If we're in a meeting right now and the CEO changed their mind about something, we're going to shift. How can I make sure that everybody understands what this shift is?
Yep.
We're not going to move the company from Atlanta to DC anymore. We're going to move to Charlotte for whatever reason. Okay, so let's maybe make draw a building. This is where we are now in Atlanta, and we want to go to Charlotte. So what's involved? What's the timeline? Those are all things that you could quickly do on the back of a sheet of paper and confirm your understanding and confirm that everyone on the Zoom or in the room understands the change.
Absolutely. I will say that, you know, it's you're confirming, just how people engage and react. And just today, I'm teaching a class next week, and I did something different. I added all these icons just to make it eye catching.
Yeah.
And I asked them, and it was kind of obscure, but it was up at the top. And I said, please acknowledge receipt of this message. I've received more acknowledgments than I ever have in other like non-visual emails I've sent before. And people, that I could tell they scrolled all the way down because I'm using Google Jamboard next week with them. And
Oh,
I'm like, here's
good.
the link. And some people, I said, I'll also provide the link on day one, but people are already asking for access to it. So the visuals are helping them get through the message and to catch
Mm,
their eye. And it's not just random visuals, it's visuals that are relevant. So, here's the
yeah.
time, I have a clock. Here's
Right.
the link, I have a finger pointing to it. Here's
Exactly.
a light bulb to, give you an idea that you need to make sure you're aware of. So it there is something to be said about really thinking about it. I know that this is something that from the agile space, it's heavily
Hmm.
acknowledged. I don't know if it's necessarily put in use, but it's acknowledged when we go through the training. So I teach to the PMI ACP, and we talk about a lot of visuals that you can use for different team collaboration. But it's something that it kind of falls on the wayside from traditional project management that could find just as much value that the agile world is looking at. So I've shared already how I've learned from you, but it wasn't that you taught me per se one on one. You had a resource out there. Is that a resource that you're still, making available for purchase for folks? Because I think I'm hoping that I've piqued the interest of folks to kind of get excited about their work and some of its visuals. And I'm not a drawer like at all. So how you showed in your resource was phenomenal. So I wanted to see if that's something you still provide.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have an ebook called 25 Awesome Icons, and we walk you through it step by step, super, super simple, how to draw really my favorite 25 for just about every situation, whether you're in a meeting or working on a project or just trying to explain concepts. Those are the icons that you can have as your go-to. I also have a free 5-day course that
Hmm.
introduces you to a couple of those icons, so you could get an appetizer of what it's like.
Oh, that's awesome. Is that something you can drop in the link in the
Yes,
chat?
yes, I can.
And what I will do is not only post it in the community, but I do want to post it on my connections on LinkedIn. I have to say, took a certified Scrum Master course.
Uh-huh.
And I really made a great connection with the instructor, and he has a huge following. He's been like advertising me, and he's like, if you're looking for a great PMP instructor, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like getting all these people contacting me. So it
Perfect.
just goes to show to the power. So I want to pay it forward. Not only am I telling people like he's such a great instructor, but also, here are resources as a community of agilists and project managers that you can do to add to the spice of life in your project work. And I think it's something that I want to be conscientious about as I do a lot more virtual classes. As I'm getting ready to start, I'm going to do
Or
a
what?
live class in a month at BWI. So I want to bring that in as
Oh,
well. Some, have the
wonderful.
whiteboard and use that virtual, I use that visual, I should say. So thank you for sending that information. So I definitely want to let my community, Mindspark community, but also my connections, I guess I should say. This is great. I'm so excited. Like I said, when my follow up, and I'll be sure to share this link with you. So if you want to do any kind of snippets or promos
Yes,
of
yes.
this, but you get me excited about project management and just how you can make it fun. And,
Of
I
course.
definitely want my folks to know about your class and about at least this resource at bare minimum. Your resource has done wonders for me. I mean, I've had students pull me aside after class. So the class is great, but I love your drawings. I
There
was just
you
like, oh,
go.
I
There
learned
you
from this person. You
go.
should buy her book. So
Thank
um
you.
it's really cool, and it's exciting to have you on here. I want folks to know how they can get in contact with you, and if they need to say anything, anything in particular, in if they make a request to you on LinkedIn, just so like, oh, okay, you're not crazy, I can go ahead and accept your
Oh,
invite.
well, if I see anything with PM in your
Okay,
title or whatever, I automatically, oh yeah, they're one of us.
awesome,
Right?
awesome. How do folks get in contact with you?
Yes, yes. Well, the easiest way might be just going to our website, seeingcolors.com.
Love it.
And yes, connect there. I do hang out in LinkedIn quite a bit. So,
Okay.
but yeah, seeingcolors.com, or just click the connect button on our website and send me an email. I always like doing a little, 15, 20-minute chat, get to know everybody, especially in the PM community.
That's great. And do you work mostly with project managers? Are you federal space? Is it some of this, some of that?
It's some of this and some of that. I really enjoy working in the healthcare and education space,
Okay. That's why we
because
connect so much, because I'm the same
yes,
way.
yes, healthcare and education. Look, we've all had a cold and we've all gone to school, right? So we can all relate to this thing here. So yeah, I love this space, but it doesn't mean that we don't work in other
Sure.
spaces. We've done work with AARP, GE, NIST, so yeah, it runs the gamut, because all the
Maryland
things
Public
really are the same.
Television. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, exactly. MPT, thank you for reminding me.
That was a
Um,
huge win. That was definitely exciting to see you
so yeah,
representing
I
there.
I look forward to any connections that come from this conversation, and I'm here to be a resource to you.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. I hope you can stick around a little bit. I know we have some extra time, but for those of you who are listening, you get point five. I think point. I mean, I guess we could go on another 10 minutes, but I will give people the opportunity to kind of download your book. But for those of you who are listening, either now or in the recording, you get point five PDUs, and this would be probably 0.25 in strategic, and then 0.25 in leadership. It's definitely takes some leadership to get people to think outside of the box, and
Oh,
help.
yes.
And do you have a graphic of out of the box thinking? I was just thinking everything I wanted, like all my main points I want to make into a box.
Yeah,
You
I
know what?
don't, not
Before we
not right
end,
now.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, but one question I do want to put you on the spot before I in the recording is that I noticed that a lot of folks have, like, I'm not an iPhone user, and so I don't have an iPad or anything of that sort, but I noticed that you can do that and share your screen. Are there tools for us Google users that we could do something similar? And I came across this one, like a note taking tool called Remarkable. And I didn't know if
Hmm.
that was, it looks really cool, but the fact that you're like, huh, it makes me pause on buying it, but it looks
No,
really, really cool.
no,
Remarkable.
you can definitely experiment. I am on the iPad,
Mhm.
iPhone side of, side of the street, but no, absolutely. Whatever technology you're using, um, experiment. That's the main
Mhm.
thing. Just
That's,
like
yeah.
whether it's the index cards, you can experiment with Zoom and the annotate tool.
Mm.
That's, definitely an easy one. And, yeah, just experiment and see.
What an amazing conversation with Lisa Nelson, the CEO of CN Colors. Lisa dropped some tidbits about her transition from project manager to entrepreneur and still using her PM skills to run her company. I have to say, I am always inspired after a conversation with Lisa. She makes me rethink and retool the ways that I can be a better project manager. Were you inspired? Maybe you want to bring in more visuals in your meetings. As Lisa said, experiment. Maybe you were inspired to use your PM skills to start a business. It's possible. Be sure to stay connected with Lisa and follow her on LinkedIn. Lisa's contact information is in the show notes. And buy her ebook. Recent research in neuroscience, psychology, and design shows that doodling can help people stay focused, grasp new concepts, and retain information. A blank page also can serve as an extended playing field for the brain, allowing people to revise and improve on creative thoughts and ideas. So let's get to drawing. I'm providing in the show notes how you can purchase Lisa's ebook on bringing visuals to your work, as well as I'm providing information to sign up for her complimentary 5-day email course to learn some basic drawings. I've done both, and they're well worth the time and investment. Thanks so much for listening.